So
Yeah,
you
it's huge.
you got this life framework and it's work,
Mm.
but what's kind of the glue that holds it all together for you?
Well, that's a really good question, Joe. Really good question. Times it feels like paper mache. I gotta be honest with you. Like, well, and what I mean by that is just like with every stage of life, there seems to be a new set of problems, right,
Sure.
or challenges. And there's been periods of my life where I'm like, gosh, again, like I'll be honest, man. Like you deal with when it's struggle, like we're moving again, right? And I'm like, man, we've been in this place 12 years. We subletted it out when we were traveling. Like it's just this has been home. Our kids grew up here, and it's easy to just want to stay put,
Hmm.
right? But I've recognized that change is good. And with change often comes new opportunities, new connections, new experiences, new lessons, new opportunities to grow or put into practice the things that we do feel very I don't know what the best way to say this, but the things that we feel like we're good at. Like I've realized that usually when big change happens, it gives me an opportunity to get into a place where I don't feel very comfortable. But often when I get comfortable, I'm often in a better position than I was before the change happened. And I think that's the nature of change. When we're going through it, it sucks. It is like it does. It's not easy. It's not like we signed up saying, "Oh, yeah, more please." But most often we get through the change, and then we have an opportunity to turn around and look at what we just went through. And very rarely does it ever feel as bad as it was when we were in it.
Right. That's absolutely, especially with moving.
You
So you're
know?
going through moving right now. It's
Oh,
terrible. It's terrible.
oh,
But then
I
for
hate it.
me,
Plus, we're downsizing, so I'm trying to figure out what stuff do we get rid of, right? And it's like, I don't want to get rid of any of my stuff. No, it's tough. I got all this fitness gear, right? And I'm like, well, my wife's like, no, we can't take all your fitness gear. There's just no way. And I'm like, well, what am I not going to take? I
yeah.
can't not take that. Like I got these hurdles and all sorts of. Anyways, if we were neighbors, Joe, I'd just be like, Joe, come pick it up. You can use this with the kids.
You'd be the greatest neighbor ever. Oh, I would love that.
But
Yeah. So I'm the
yeah,
same way. They're like your children. How can I leave these
yeah,
behind? I need my
totally,
kettlebells
man.
and hurdles
I'm
and my
like,
kit.
yeah. I'm like, I'm taking my power blocks and my bench, no matter what. They're
Oh
coming
yeah.
with me. But everything else is up for discussion. But sorry, I didn't mean to sort of circumvent the question, but just put it to bed. I think it's just that relationship with change is the biggest factor that plays into everything we're talking about today. If we're very change averse, we're going to have a lot of struggles in life. And I just mean because change happens no matter what.
Right.
Buddha, like 2,500 years ago, 2,600 years ago, is like, hey, you know what? This whole thing called the universe, it's impermanent. It's always changing. And, science in the last 100 years has said, hey, you know what Buddha said? He's actually right. The world is this entire universe as we understand it's in a constant state of change. And the law of entropy, right? Energy is just changing forms, but it's always changing. Well, so is our lives, right? So either learn how to roll with it, or you're going to have a really challenging time, because
Yep.
every time you run up against change, there's going to be this fear response or flight and flight or flee, right? To want to turn around and run tail. Like I get it, but I don't want to live my life like that, you know? So as hard as the challenge is and as hard and challenging as the change is, just going to go at it, and try to have a positive perspective as I'm going through it. And trust me, it's not always been easy. I'm dealing with a 15-year struggle with alcohol, being diagnosed with a chronic autoimmune condition. Like I've had some pretty big milestone moments where it's like, whoa, wasn't easy, but I'll tell you, it was worth it.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you've referenced your relationship with alcohol a couple of times. So share with everybody
Yeah.
kind of that one question that changed everything for
Oh,
you.
well, yeah, and I won't steal the thunder of my TEDx talk because hopefully people want to go watch that. But it sort of picks up at this place I was in my early 30s where I was. We talked about the rock before, and I was definitely digging a hole under the rock, and it was just me, just doing what I was doing and not willing to admit that maybe it's a good idea to change. Maybe this sadness, this depression, and anxiety I'm experiencing is being more creative based on how I'm acting or not acting. And really just taking full accountability for my own actions. And because it was a lot easier just to as challenging as life got, it was always easy to uncork a bottle. Like that was way easier. But but I realized it never made anything better.
Mm.
It just delayed things, or my admittance to things being challenging or hard. And it just became a real habit. It was just part of my lifestyle. It was a distraction, a tool to escape. And I would always justify it, and I had good reason for it, because I spend all day supporting our family, and I'm working with people. I got this company I've co-founded, and so much stress, and it's just, life's hard. So yeah, I deserve this drink at the end of the day, or a bottle or two,
Yeah.
and it got to a place, my wife and I were together for a decade at that point. Both of our daughters were under the age of 6. And yeah, things were slowly unraveling, like I'd done some things I'm not proud of. There's some promiscuity, wasn't faithful to my wife. On top of that, I'd made some bad business decisions. I also, just wasn't super respectful at times, especially when I was drinking. I was always considered fun guy the guy that you'd want around if you were partying. But at times I could rub people the wrong way. And I get that. I totally understand it, because I've had it happen to me too when I've been out with people that have had too much to drink. And unfortunately, I'd remember it the next morning. I'd be like, oh man, I feel like an ass, for doing all that. And yet that still wasn't enough to instigate a change. I continued to do what I was doing. Well, that fateful morning, this is going back 14 years now. My wife sat me down and she's like, hey, I'm not okay with our girls growing up in this environment anymore. And let's talk about how we're going to co-parent our kids. And you're going to have to find somewhere else to live. And, that's not what I wanted. Remember, one of my values is family. The whole reason why I was working and doing what I was doing, I believed, was to support my family, but really it was for my ego. I recognize that now, but I could justify as family, but it was really all about me. And she asked me a question during this very emotional conversation. We're both shedding tears. We're really getting to the nut of it. And she says, Di, are you being the type of man that you would want to marry your daughters?
Oh, wow.
Exactly. Wow. It was, Joe, it was, and I know it's a pun, but it was a very sobering question, like literally and metaphorically speaking. Like, it was just, wow. And in that moment, I realized everything that I was modeling and how I was mentoring those that were closest to me was actually in complete juxtaposition from what I was prioritizing as far as values. And I honestly, who I believed I was always becoming. We always have an idea growing up, what we stand for and how we want to be perceived. But when you get really clear on it and you start to look from the outside and looking in at yourself, you start to realize, man, the things I'm doing are actually contradictory to everything that I've been saying and wanting to do. And that's a tough place to come to and realize that you're there, because it's like, whoa, now what? And for me, that now what was like, you know what? I've got to say no to alcohol so I can say yes to the life I've wanted. And it started with just a 1-year commitment to not drink. Like, literally, it was like 1 year. I made a commitment to myself right then and there with my wife and my 2 daughters. I'm like, I'm going to go 1 year and not have any alcohol. And for me, at that point in time, like I told you, it was 15 years I was struggling with this. The longest I'd ever done is like a sober January. So this is a 12x improvement. I'm thinking that's a pretty big deal, So, but again, I wasn't like I'm quitting alcohol. I never felt like I was an alcoholic, because I do understand there's people that will identify with that term. I didn't, because I never felt powerless to it. I was always fully aware of my decisions, and I would choose to have another drink. I never was in a place where I felt like powerless against it, that it was like automatic, that I couldn't stop myself. I was choosing to. I was prioritizing and valuing alcohol over everything else in my life. And so when I removed that, man, within the first couple months, I realized how hard it was going to be to make some changes, because I didn't know how. And that's when I really experienced the first time in my life being vulnerable. Started with my wife, just opening up and saying, this is everything I'm feeling right now. This is why I want the alcohol. Here's really what's going on. And I remember my wife listening to me go off and just sort of dump this on her, right? Like verbal diarrhea, just, and she looks at me and she says, thank you. It's going to be okay. and I think you should talk to somebody, you know? So, and she was right. I needed somebody to talk to. And that's when I found a great psychiatrist, worked with him for 4.5 months, found another counselor that helped us with communication in our relationship, worked with them for about 3 months. And like, I went all in on that, you know, because it was important to me to get through this, but to navigate it in a good way. So it wasn't going to be a problem after the year, you know, because here it was, this is a year. I got a year. I'm not drinking. I'm prioritizing this. Everything changed. Like, Joe, everything changed. And, you know, within that year, we got to the end of it. My wife's looking at me. She's like, holy, you did a year. And I was like, holy, I did a year. You know, I was like, wow, this is a big deal. And she's like, well, do you want to celebrate? We can share some Chardonnay and watch sunset tonight on the back porch. And I'm like, that sounds really good. But Christy, so much has changed and so many things have gotten better in this last year, not only in our relationship and our connection with our kids and our communities, like just everything's gotten so much better. What do you think would happen if I just kept going? And that what if was so enticing to me that I said, I'm just going to keep going. It's now 14 years, you know, 14 years since I made that decision. It's really become just my lifestyle. And it's been life-changing. As cliche as that sounds, that's truly how it's been. You know, when I look at everything that's transpired in the last 14 years, and it was a direct result of that fateful decision to answer my wife's question and become the man that I would want my daughters to marry.
Dang,
You know?
that is powerful
Yeah.
right there, man. That's just the power of making a decision, right? It all started with you making that decision that I'm gonna do this. I mean, there's tactical stuff that went along with it, but it all started with that decision, right? There's so much power in decision. So that's amazing. So how long have you guys been married now?
We've been happily dating for 23 years. You know, I've been dating my wife, and I'll forever be dating my wife. And yeah, I use that term very, very intentionally because I'll tell you, 23 years ago and to where we are now, we're very different people. And if we weren't actively dating and continuously dating one another, we would never be able to fall in love with the new versions of ourselves every day. You know, so I encourage people in long-term relationships, never stop dating. You know, your spouse, it's awesome. It really is.
Well, so you guys got married early, right? So you guys are completely different people now, I'm sure.
Oh gosh, completely. You know, she was in her early 20s. I was mid 20s. You know, we started having kids within a few years of meeting each other. Like it just we did everything really fast, you know, and we sort of learned as we went. And there was some awesome stuff that came with that, but there was also some challenges that came with that. You know, so but it was all good. It was our life, you know.
Yeah. So what's some dating ideas for people out there that maybe like maybe I should take my wife on a date? What do you guys like?
Good. Well, the first thing I recommend is just put it in the calendar and make it recurring. So it's the same time and same day every week. So we know that Saturday night is our date night, you know, from 5 p.m. till 11 p.m. You know, we got this block of time and it's always blacked out on our calendars, her calendar and my calendar. And we like to switch it up where alternate weeks, I'll decide what we do with that block of time. And then the next week, she'll decide what we do with that block of time. And so we get to sort of mix up what we want to do and what we think might be fun. And sometimes it might just be staying at home, making dinner and Netflix and chilling, you know, like I'm not saying like we have to go out and do stuff,
right?
But it's intentional time for us to connect and just be with one another. And we just know it's that non-negotiable one night a week. I mean, our friends now know if they ask us to do something on Saturday night, they've got to factor in, it's got to be both of us and it's got to be factored in to complement the date night. Or they won't ask us, they won't call us to do anything on Saturday night. Like that's how long and how consistent, but also how good we are. Just constantly telling people, no, we'll get invited. No, it's date night. Sorry, Christine, I got a plan. You know, we got something going on, you know, like, so that's the first thing I recommend is put it in the calendar, you and your partner commit to that, you stick with it and you make it a non-negotiable. After that, maybe switch it up. So you take turns planning what you're going to do with that. You know, sometimes for us, we just go for a walk. We'll grab a coffee, go for a nice walk. Living in Vancouver is really nice. We have something called the Seawall. So it goes all around the city down to a big park called Stanley Park. And you can just watch the waves and just people watch and walk and connect and sit and just enjoy the outdoors, you know. For us, we might do that for a couple hours, grab a bite to eat, go home, maybe snuggle up, watch a movie, maybe do some naked tango under the sheets, but you know, like which usually, yeah, but you know, there's we're creating space to be intimate and connect on a deeper level. And because during the week, especially when you got young kids or kids that are growing, you got a big career, demanding career, like it's tough to create the space to just be completely present for one another. And so that's why that one intentional night a week has been so good for us, you know? Wow. So that's just a couple ideas, but I don't want to be so prescriptive to say, do this, do this, do this, you know, find stuff that's fun, do stuff that's different. And don't be afraid of even just creating a night where you just chill at home, make some homemade pizzas, watch some movies, and just enjoy each other's company. Escape rooms are a lot of fun too, by the way. I just throw that out there. They can either destroy your relationship or make it stronger. It's one or the other. But they're fun. Or just going and doing drop-ins at a gym. You know, like we'll go to the rock climbing gym as an example, or you know, we'll maybe go to a CrossFit class or a spin class or yoga class, right? Like just making it a healthy date, right? Doing something that's physical to start with and then having some fun afterwards, right? So anyways, those are just a few ideas, but I just tell people just go, just do it, you know, and see what happens.
That's it. Yeah, and being intentional and making it a priority. Those are two huge keywords you use right there. Just and then after that, it really doesn't matter what you do, right? If you're just being intentional about it and making it a priority, just being with each other, right? So, man, I think too many people get caught up in the schedule, like you said. So we all have busy lives, and you can kind of get on that autopilot. So, so you've kind of got a theme throughout your life of, you know, being intentional, sticking with those priorities, and being consistent. That's a big thing with you. I mean, you were going to go 1 year, and then now you're on year 15, no alcohol. So that's amazing. Yep. It all started with that one decision. So
one question, man. I got to give it to my wife. You know, she helped me with that. Like, had she not asked me that question, I still think I probably would have come to a similar conclusion. But I don't think, to be honest, it's really interesting. I often think, like, what happened if she didn't ask me that question at that moment in time?
Yeah.
You know, would I have come to the realization to make a commitment to move away from it, to say no to that so I could say yes to everything else? And at times, you know, it's easy to get caught up in that and start thinking about all the maybes and what ifs, but I just have to be grateful that I made the decision that I did, you know, and followed the path that I followed. And there's no regret there, right? Like there's no regret. It's just like, no. And I don't regret how I was before that. That's still who I am and who I was, you know, like, I'm not denying that. But I've evolved. And I think that's what we're all looking to do, right? Is just become better versions of ourselves, better versions where we can look in the mirror and say, you know what? I like you, you know, like give me a virtual high five to myself here, you know, like that's a wonderful place to find oneself. And I'm not talking about being arrogant or overtly confident. I'm talking about just liking who you are as a person.
Man, that's where it all starts. And if you could start there.
It is.
Yeah, that is
it's huge. It's huge, you know?
So maybe not everyone has like that lightning bolt type question in their life. But if there's someone out there struggling right now and they want to change their life, where do you recommend they start? Where do you turn to? How do you change your life when you're in rock bottom?
Well, I think first and foremost, there's 3 questions that everybody should ask themselves. You know, first of all, can I do it? If I do it, will it work? And is it worth it? And what I'm referring to are typically the changes that we've identified. Because for any situation to change, you got to change. You know, you got to do things differently than you were doing it before, right? And it does take action. You can't just talk about it. You can't just write about it. You can't just think about it. You got to do stuff. You know, you got to actually purposely and intentionally do certain actions to create the new result. And I guess, you know, what I like to say about this whole thing is those 3 questions, like me as a kid at 15 years old, you know, can I lose this weight? Can I actually get healthy? That's what I wanted. That was the change I identified I wanted. I want to get healthy. Wasn't exactly sure what that meant, but I wanted to get healthy. I wanted to be different than how I was feeling. So can I get healthy? And I started thinking about it. You know, I started rattling my brain. Like, can I get healthy? Can I, at this 15-year-old boy that's morbidly obese, actually get healthy and fit? And I started to think that I don't know. There's way more that I don't know than I know. And so it brings up this big question around education and self-education, knowledge, right? Which hopefully we apply and it becomes wisdom, you know, internal wisdom, right? And for me, it was like, I realized I just didn't know enough. I didn't know how to start to navigate the changes. So can I do this? Yeah, I think I'm capable of it. But if I learn the steps, or I find a process or a blueprint, a map, an example of others that have done it, yeah, I can do this. I can get healthy. Because you have to come to an answer that's positive on that very first question. Like, you have to get to a place where you say, yes, I can change. I can do this. Because then you got to follow it up with question 2. All right, well, if I do this, will it actually work? So if I start, moving my body with a little bit of purpose every day, purpose to create, a physical adaptation, right? Like this physiological response where my body wants to get a little healthier, meaning that I improve my cardiovascular system. I improve my strength, my endurance. You can look at all these different performance markers, but at the end of the day, I'm moving my body with the intention of getting healthier. If I do that, will it actually create the results? Will I get healthier? Because if we don't believe that to be true, or that we can do it, we're not going to be able to sustain the commitment, nor take the actions consistently, because we'll give up before we started, right? Like, we will. It's just, it's in human nature as well. Because listen, we are lazy. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's called conservation of energy. It's in our DNA. Yeah. We want to do as little as possible to create the best result. Nothing wrong with that. It's also why, drugs like Ozempic are selling like hotcakes, right? So, well, you mean I can take a little pill or an injection and lose weight? Thank you. Give it to me. It's like, anyway, don't get me started. But, because that second question, if I do this, will it work? When we get to a place of a yes on that, it increases our confidence. It increases our confidence in what actions to take, but also it will diminish how much we procrastinate. That's the key. It's those distractions and those sort of our normal way of dealing with stress, and that will override any changes we're trying to make if we allow it to, until the new lifestyle, the new actions become our new normal. But that takes consistency and frequency and commitment, discipline even, and just trusting that if I do this, it will work. Fortunately for me at that time, there was magazines, there was books I got at the library that had wonderful stories and testimonials of other people that had made similar changes. And that's the wonderful thing about the internet today, is we can find examples of people that have already done the things that we want to do. Well, if they can do it, man, I can do it too.
That's it.
So first question, can I do it? Yes. If I do it, will it work? Yes. Now you got to ask question 3. Is it worth it? Is getting healthy worth it as a 15-year-old kid? And really, when I'm talking to groups or teams, it makes sense to use a term like it. But when we're talking about ourselves and being in, our own individual lives, we have to phrase the question, am I worth it? That's not an easy one to answer, because that can unravel a whole pile of yuck.
For sure.
And stuff that we have to sort through. And I'm not saying skip over the question. You want to acknowledge it, you want to sit with it, but it may not be 100% clear at the beginning, meaning that you might not truly believe it yet. I'll tell you, as that 15-year-old boy, every time I looked in the mirror, I was disgusted by who I was looking at. I found a complete disconnect. I didn't want to accept that that's actually who I was. And so, am I worth it? Well, back then, to be honest, as a 15-year-old kid that was hurting in all ways possible, I probably would have said, no, I'm not worth it, because I didn't have that self-belief. I didn't have the self-love or the self-care enough to say yes to that. And this is where there's a part 4 or 3B. It's like, who do I need to get around that can help me with this? Because what I find is if we don't have that self-belief or self-love enough to say, yeah, I'm worth it right now, get around a group of people that are already on a similar journey with similar beliefs that you yourself want to adopt. They're going to look at you and say, dude, you're worth it. I'm only a few steps ahead of you, but I'll tell you, I felt the exact same way as you are right now, but look at where I am now. And that's because of XYZ, 1, 2, 3. And we're here to help you with that too. And so even if you can't answer, am I worth it? And own that. Find a group of like-minded individuals to support you until you believe it, because they're going to drip into you. They're going to drip into you. They're going to help you get confident. They're going to help you get clear on what you need to do. And they're also going to hold you accountable. And that accountability is a big reason why we're able to sustain often the things that we commit to doing, you know? So that's how I recommend everybody start any journey towards change, is answering those 3 questions. And then you just got to get to work, you know, just get to work. No?
Wow. That's a powerful system right there. I mean, you kind of need that framework. That's what you need. And it does start. And you got to start with the belief that I can do this. When it starts there, everything kind of can fall into place. And hey, if you're listening right now, guess what? You are worth it, by the way.
Yeah.
Putting that out. We've never even met you. And we know this. We're professionals. we know
Hell yeah.
Man, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for coming on here. I know we've chalked up a few more on the million. I don't know how many we'll put into your category on that. But you changed a few today. So what's the best place for people to connect with you?
Well, you know, I'm on social media. I'm very active on LinkedIn and Instagram. So I always say that's the best place for us to start connecting, have a conversation, and just start to get to know one another. You know, like I love hearing from people and hear about what big changes they're working on right now. You know, I love hearing about those stories and what's working for people, where they're struggling, because I like to help. You know, and so those are the 2 channels I would recommend connecting with me on. And if you're just looking for lots of information about a lot of the things that we've been talking about today, and I mean, the knowledge piece, right? That knowledge into wisdom, we got to learn the stuff. Then when you apply it, you realize, wow, awesome, I did this. That's where your self-confidence goes up. I've got a blog that I've been blogging on since 2008. Wow. There's a lot of content there. I'm not going to apologize for it. It's there to help people. And I recommend, if you go to diamondwell.com, you'll find it. And there's a lot of content there geared around everything we talked about today, Joe. So, and it's free, it's accessible. Just dive into that. And then outside of that, just Diamond Well on any social platform, but Instagram and LinkedIn would be the best one if you want to connect with me directly.
Okay, cool. And I'll link that in show notes, because I know you're like, y'all don't know how to spell his name. You've never met him. It's
I know, right?
D-A-I, by the way. Is that a Welsh name, by the way?
Yes, you're absolutely right. It's Welsh for David. Welsh for cool. David, or Daffod, if you look up the Welsh spelling. But Di's the pet form. It's like Richard and Dick, right? Or Bob and Robert. Same sort of idea. In Wales, Daffod would be shortened to Di.
Oh, so. Cool. I've never met a Di. That's a cool one. So it's not D-I-E, by the way. That's a different guy out there.
Yeah, that's right. Right. But hey, don't worry. You know, if you spell it like that, I think it's almost to the place now where Google will autocorrect you. It's been searched for enough now. So I hope. But if it doesn't, I'll still show up, because I've made sure to SEO it for all the misspellings.
See, you're playing chess. Everyone else playing checkers out there. So yeah. Now, this is great. You definitely changed some lives. If you're listening right now, please share this with somebody. He brought so many nuggets of wisdom that can help you in so many ways, or somebody that you might know. So please share that with them. Hey, I'm going to link everything in show notes where you can connect with him. Hey, you felt his energy, his passion for helping people. You need some more in that life, in your life, right? And that's what he does every day. Gets up every morning and helps someone else. So connect with him on those social media platforms. Go to his blog. I've checked it out. There is tons of information, and there's something that can help you. So please check that out. And Di, thank you so much for what you're doing out there in the world. Keep dating your wife. Keep doing out there and changing lives. And we're going to get you in that million. I don't know how you count those, but we're going to get it.
It's just good vibes all around. That's all that matters. And
that's what
and Joe, just I want to acknowledge you real quickly, just because I know there's a lot of people out there that are probably going to think and feel the exact same thing I'm about to say, but it needs to be said. And it's thank you, for creating this platform to capture these conversations. So all of us out there can be flies on the wall to pick up on the wisdom that's being cultivated every single time you show up and do this. And I just got to acknowledge it, because I know it takes a lot of time, energy, and resources to continuously put out what you're putting out. And I just want to say thank you, man. Like, really, thank you for doing this. Because as you said earlier, when we first started jamming, and I asked you about sort of why did you get started doing this? I mean, you identified what we all feel is that there's so much negative in the world. We got to do our part to offset that. The debits and the credits, right?
That's it, yeah.
And thank you for way offsetting the negative with all the positive you're throwing down. So it was an honor to be here today. Thank you so much. And I hope we get to talk again soon.
Absolutely, man. I would love that. So, hey, if you're listening right now, thank you so much for tuning in. Please share this episode. It keeps growing every week, so we appreciate the help. So keep that up. And we'll see you on the Relentless Positivity Podcast next week.
Wow, what a great episode. You just share that with somebody. I'm going to share with you some awesome sponsors. McWilliams Marketing. They can help your business grow. Regardless of the size of the project, you're going to get a solution that is specifically created for you and your business. No cookie cutter, one size fits approach here. So Amy and her band of fearless marketers can help you with all that stuff that you think you can do, but you're not really that good at it. You don't have time for it. They can do that. They're the experts. It's what they do. Web design, online conversion optimization, SEO, graphic design, marketing, page management, all that stuff. Go let them do that. Don't handle that yourself. Go check them out at mcwilliamsmarketing.com. See what all they can do. They're amazing people. Teak Patnick with Patnick Realty. He really does it all in the real estate world. General real estate sales, acquisitions, property management, investments, all that good stuff. You're not just a transaction with Teak. He really wants to build a relationship for life with you. He has built his whole business on prayer, hard work ethic, honesty, and results. You can trust Patnick Realty with all your real estate needs. Hey, I trust my brother from another mother, Teak, and you should too. Give him a call, 256-694-0117, or email him at teak@patnickco.com.
Over the past 4 years, Valley Leadership Academy has established a reputation for being the ideal alternative to traditional schools by providing an excellent education along with real-life leadership and service opportunities. Now is your chance to come alongside them and help them grow to the next level. Please visit valleyleadershipacademy.org to find out about personal and corporate sponsorships that will help this remarkable school grow in an even brighter spot in Huntsville. Together, we can make a difference. Embrace the power of visual learning. Are you a football referee, a coach, a player, a fan? Would you want to see the game from the perspective of officials on the field? Do you want a better understanding of the rules? Get It Right provides 3D simulations and virtual reality to learn the game and get invaluable reps from the comfort of your home. Go to getitrighttraining.com. Train today for a better game tomorrow.
Hey, these are awesome businesses. Go support them. They're out supporting positivity, and they will do you right. Have an awesome day.